Hi, everyone. It's Tanya Hertz here. I am the Assistant Professor of Entrepreneurship at San Diego Miramar College. I'm also the director of the Rec Innovation Lab, which is a business incubator at Miramar College. And tonight, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about verbal communication and namely presentations. Now, this could include presentations such as pitch decks. This could include any elevator pitch. Anytime you're giving a live presentation, this is some tips and some tricks to put your best face forward, to do your best. Okay, so let's start by sharing my screen. I want to show you some of the slides that I have on business communication. And if you are following along in the slides, we are on slide 19. We finished talking about how long it takes various writers to deliver their message. Poor writers tend to spend a lot of time, well, I shouldn't say a lot of time. They spend not a lot of time in any of it, but a lot more time in the writing, where average writers spend a whole lot of time in the drafting of letters, spend very little time planning and reviewing, and then really excellent writers are good at spending not a lot of time writing. They spend most of their time in the planning process. All right, so let's talk about our verbal presentations here and how we can, like I said, put our best face forward and give an effective verbal presentation. So number one, the opening is very important. You want to start strong. Start with a clear, confident voice. You want to speak loudly, I should say, for the room. So you'll want to project your voice. If you are in a live presentation, a face-to-face presentation, you'll want to speak to the back row. Now, in a presentation over Zoom or any other type of a virtual meeting tool, then speaking loudly is not as important as speaking clearly. You want to speak slower than you think you would need to, and it's a good idea to practice more than once, practice several times, and record yourself so that you can see any idiosyncrasies, just any funny things that you do while you're presenting. So that initial opening is so important because everyone's watching and everybody is looking to see how the rest of the presentation will go. Make sure eye contact is very important. If it's a Zoom recording, the eye contact is with that light at the top center. So you'll want to be looking into the camera, not off to the side. And start with a hook, right? Start with something to engage the audience, to get them to say, okay, I want to hear a little bit more, right? I want to listen to this presenter. Grab that attention, involve the audience. You can maybe ask them a question. Now, if you ask them a question, make sure that the question is very simple, a yes or a no kind of question, or raise your hand if X, Y, Z. Don't ask a question such as, I'll give you an example. I just watched a presentation where the presenter said, so tell me, everybody in the audience, how many of you are making more than $50,000 a year and paid your taxes last year, paid your taxes last year and the year before, and are not delinquent on any of the taxes and are in the, it went on and on, right? Nobody knew what they were supposed to do. How do I answer that, right? I'm an audience, right? So much better would be, by show of hands, how many people feel that paying taxes is important, right? And then maybe however many people will raise their hands, right? Keep it clear and concise. Excuse me. In the body of the presentation, clear and concise. It's all about business, right? In business, we do not like to have a lot of fluff in there. So don't put too many main points. Keep the focus on 2, maximum 4 main points for the entire presentation. And it should be clear. The structure should be clear. Keep it very, very easy to understand. It should be explicit. Do not try to take people down a complicated journey of of a description of where you want them to go. the simpler you can make it, the better the presentation. And the closing should be just as strong as the introduction. It should end the presentation succinctly. It should signal to the audience that this is over, right? That the presentation is no longer going on. And it should not just be any questions, right? The problem with any questions is nobody knows what to do. Should we clap now or do we ask questions now? So especially for a live presentation, make sure to end the presentation first. So thank you for your attention, and this concludes our presentation. Is excellent, right? We're done. Now pause, take a beat. Now, are there any questions? Can I answer any questions? Is there anything I can help you with, etc.? Right. In the Q&A section, make sure if you're doing it in a team, you know who's going to be handling the questions. And make sure you understand that if you're presenting as a part of, let's say, a class or a part of some sort of cohort, a pitch deck, something like this, that you are still on stage, you are still the center of attention until the end of the Q&A. So you still have to manage the room. You still have to maintain. You still are in control. And in fact, throughout the presentation, let them know how you're handling questions. Are you putting the questions in the chat in a Zoom room? Are you answering the questions at the end? And no matter what, answer the questions in 1, maximum 2 sentences. Nobody wants you to ramble. They do not want more than 2 sentences. If they do want more, they'll ask you to elaborate, but just please, please, please don't ramble, right? 1 or 2 sentences. And be prepared for all questions, all types of questions. And please don't answer questions with, I don't know, I'm not sure, I didn't look that up, I'm lazy. No, or this is kind of a little bit of a pet peeve of mine. You know, I'm not sure to the answer to that, but I'll get back to you. Now, the reason I don't like that is because I feel like it's just BS. Yeah, sorry, but it's inauthentic. And if you authentically will get back to me, great. But if not, please don't lie to me, right? So it's better to say, my favorite line, you know, that was outside of the scope of my investigation. However, it's interesting, or that's something that we might be looking at down the road, or anything other than saying, I don't know, or I'll answer you later, right? Now, it's a good idea to use visual aids. Give people something to look at. 1 minute per slide is a good rule of thumb. Most businesses require that you understand how to use PowerPoint. Although Google Slides or Google Presentations we can use in lieu of PowerPoint. And the only thing I would recommend, though, is if you are going to use Google Slides, make sure that you have downloaded a copy of it, because it just seems to be that that day that you're presenting is the one day that there's no Wi-Fi or something, right? So handle nerves by practicing. The more you practice and the more you practice out loud, the less nervous you'll be. Record yourself, watch the recording, present your pitch in front of other people. Make sure that you are as comfortable with the topic and have the best command of topic as possible. And really, if you do mess up, never admit it in a presentation. Presenting is the time that you fake it till you make it. You roll with it, you pretend like that was supposed to happen. Very often, the only reason we know that you messed up is because you tell us that you messed up. Oh, sorry, I wasn't supposed to say that. Oh gosh, what I was supposed to say right now is this. No, just roll with it. Just go with it, fake it. We don't know. We don't know what you're supposed to be presenting on. In terms of hostility, every so often you'll get just a terrible audience member who thinks they're going to show you up by memorizing one obscure fact about your topic and then throwing it out there. Did you know this? Did you know that? Make sure that you have a response for those difficult audience members. Ignoring them sometimes works. So if you do have a particularly disruptive audience member, just don't call on them. Don't ask them for questions. If you have an audience member who is repeatedly known for asking off-topic or lengthy questions, ignore that person. Don't call on them. And say, your question is important to us, but let's address that later. We'll get to you after we answer the question from someone else, right? You might even consider having a plant in the audience to ask you sort of softball questions. And that's absolutely appropriate, totally fine to kind of ease you into it and make you feel a little bit more comfortable. And you can also ask audience members if they're being downright rude. You can ask them to leave, right? While you're on stage, while you're presenting, you're the king, right? You're the king or the queen or the star of the show. So if you want someone to leave, ask them to leave. Right? Although that's very rare that would happen. You typically see that when you're presenting to maybe small children or particularly difficult children. But usually if your presentation is engaging and interesting, they'll be respectful, they'll watch and they'll listen. And it's a good idea to make eye contact, but look around the room, look at lots of different people, and incorporate humor into your presentation, but slightly, right? You don't want to just come right out and tell jokes. It's still professional, right? Or if you do tell a joke, you keep it somewhat professional. Oh, at least clean. Adding a joke, even though it's a professional setting, can really make people sort of root for you, because people feel for you when you're in an uncomfortable situation, and they want the best for you. And so that's a good way to kind of get people over on your side. Remember, you're in business, a salesperson first. You're selling your idea, you're selling yourself, you're selling whatever it is, you're selling it. And so you want people to like you. And so have a pleasant demeanor, have a smile, be the kind of person that people want to be around, and you're more likely to convince them and to sell yourself as a presenter. Be dynamic in your delivery, engaging, enthusiastic, rather than pedantic and rote, and this is the way that I'm, right? Put a little energy and oomph and effort into it. Sit up straight, take a position of power if you want control. And this can also help manage difficult audience members. Sitting up straight, right? Position of power. If you feel powerful, if you look powerful, you'll be powerful. Again, fake it till you make it. Right. So here's some tips for being dynamic: knowing that material without memorizing it, looking at your members of your audience at least half the time. We say that because when we say look at the audience, don't stare them down. I always have some student who's giving a presentation who thinks eye contact is important, and so I'm going to stare at the teacher and just give the presentation to her. Look around the room, right? Vary your voice, vary your facial expressions, tone, inclination, move your body in a natural way, but don't be a stone statue giving your presentation. It's okay to use notes, but keep them inconspicuous, keep them down low, and don't bring a whole piece of, do I have a paper? I was gonna say, you don't want to have like your notes on a very large piece of paper. I don't have one here. But the reason I was going to tell you is because if you're nervous, you have a big paper, it can shake like this. A smaller paper is less likely to shake around. Practice for time again and again and again. You will go over, not under on time. If you have 10 minutes, chances are you're going to be struggling to keep it in the 10 minutes. Always in the practice, you should have at least 30 seconds of leeway that you'll use up in the presentation itself. So cut it shorter. People like shorter presentations. Never apologize. Never say sorry. I messed up. Nobody needs to know that. You do not need to admit that you messed up. Use natural gestures. Feel like, or make it feel like you are authentically talking. Use your hands if you normally use your hands. If you don't, please don't do fake hand gestures to try to seem like you're, I don't know, engaging or something like this. Right? And practice makes perfect, or I shouldn't say that. It doesn't make perfect. Practice makes pretty darn good, and it makes it easier, and it makes it more fun, and it makes it less stressful. All right, I hope you enjoyed this, and I'm looking forward to the times when you give dynamic, engaging presentations that we get to watch. All right, take care. Thank you so much.